Right, so I just wanted to do a brief uh, video about a phrase, creatures of God, which you may have heard. In various contexts you hear, well, you're just a creature of God, bereft of power before the power of God. All God's creatures, man is also referred to as a creature of God. So I think it's interesting that when you look at it kind of from a sort of physical, material point of view, you would most likely, or you can easily imagine, well, here's God created this, and he puts it over there, and this, and this, and this, and this, and so on. So there's all these creatures, including little slither bugs and every other kind of thing. And then he creates them, and they're all kind of out on their own, and he looks after them and stuff. But actually, I think from this, particularly in terms of human beings, I think we need to look at it a little bit more differently, because it's like, of course, this is mostly an analogy. It's not, but it's like when God creates something, it's like imagine a yellow space that represents the Almighty, and then he creates something out of it. You, let's say he creates you, okay, the being you. And then he's created all kinds of things. They're all kind of still in that yellow space. They're still, it was as if you could see, if you looked at it from the side, you could see the yellow space, and then you would see kind of like a couple of lines coming out and then forming you. So it's still, as you might say, at one with God. It's still part of God. It's something that he's created, a living creature. He created living creatures, amazing thing. But it's not, like in the material world, there's a little unit, and we pop it out of there, and pop it out there, and pop it out there. It's still within God. You're created, but you're within God. Now, when we look at mankind's experience on the earth, or when he, I suppose, incarnates anywhere, human beings, creatures, creations of God that take different forms and become different things, we can see how it's very similar. It's like the sign of it all, of the whole creation there, is in the mother. So, from a drop of water and some stuff, a few things, a being grows inside of the mother. Well, that being is not the same as the mother. It has a different consciousness, but it's kind of like during the period of the time when it's growing inside of her, the pregnancy, that child is part of its mother, isn't it? It's connected to its mother because it's food from its mother. But it's actually attached to or held in a fluid and connected directly to part of her supply system, and then also it feels what she feels, and if she gets disturbed, or if she gets happy, or she drinks, or she smokes pot, or she eats food, or anything that that she does, including mating with her husband, the child also experiences that. He feels that. And then, at the time of birth, the child is expelled out of the woman. The placenta is cut, and the child is now separate from the mother, and yet it's very, very, very close to its mother and its father also. He wasn't even inside of the father, but now the father's little contribution, or his contribution to the whole thing, somehow the father also feels very, very, very close to the child. So they're separate, but they're still one, which brings us to the main point of what Subi said, which was God is one. There's only one. God is one. That's it. That's all there is. There isn't anything else. There's nothing besides God, or beyond God, or before God. God is one. That's it, the whole thing. So when you think of yourself as being a created being, a creature of God, you shouldn't be too carried away by your imagination or your, it depends on what kind of imagining you were doing, or your thoughts of your mind, analytical, how we do things. We separate things out, we categorize them, we compare them. It's better not to do that. It's better not to go there. But realize that even though you are like the baby. So, and so the other thing is, so the baby coming out of the mother is also analogous to, or symbolizes perhaps, what happens when God sends his the human creature, the first man, the first woman, when he sends them to the earth. It's like God is like, in a sense, the mother is. It's like the being is there and close and part of God, worshiping God, and responding to things that God is doing, and so forth and so on, up there in what we call heaven. And for the baby too, when it's in the mother's womb, it's kind of like heaven. It's warm, it's nurturing, it doesn't have to do anything, and everything is insulated from it. So when God sends a child, or a soul, a being that he created, to the earth, it's as if he's like the mother who delivers the child out into the physical universe, in some world, maybe this place or some other place. It's a vast universe. And the child feels very close to its parents initially, but it's also aware of where it came from. Its soul, its being is still responding to things that it feels from where it came from. It's still connected. So when you say, all I'm trying to point out is, if you say, or you think to yourself, you realize that I'm just a creature of God, implying kind of a lower status or a separation of some kind, I think you're making a mistake. No, you're still part of God. You're a part of God, just like the child is a part of his parents, is created the, the baby, the physical baby, is part of its parents, but it's separated out on its own. So you're still part of God, but you are put out there in a more challenging environment where, because it's challenging, you can learn and grow and do things that you didn't have to do when you were in the womb. I mean, when you were in the womb, or when you're in heaven, you don't have to do anything. I mean, well, let's just take the analogy of being in the womb is the same as being in heaven, by analogy. So there you are, you're getting all that, you're being fed, you're warm, and you're kind of moving around a little bit now and then, doing the odd thing, but you don't have to do much, and you don't want to do much because you're comfortable and you're being fed, so why would you do anything? It's just not, although babies do kick around, but they're not really, so anyway, I don't want to carry it too far. So I think that's how you should view yourself. I suggest that you might consider this. View yourself as the child of God, going up and outside of the womb of God, heaven, the place where all His creatures return to when they come back from the earth. It's generally speaking. Of course, there's a lot of fear-mongering that goes on the earth. So, of course, the biggest fear is right away. You can see right away what it would be. As well, yeah, but now you're here, you're not going back, you're not going to be able to get back because it's something you did, you haven't been good. That would be the go-to fear. And those kind of mischiefs are perpetrated on people because the one who's making them afraid is not a very nice person. Because they're scaring the kid or making the kid feel anxious. And what kind of a human being wants to do that? And none of us are really human. We don't want to scare people and make them feel anxious. And we don't think it's funny when that happens. But other people who are on the earth who are perhaps have gotten caught up in some other forces actually directing them, they think it's hilarious. Scare the kid or startle them or make him think things that aren't true. He actually believed in a little rascal. So yeah, being a creature of God is a wonderful thing. God created you. You're still with God. That's how I see it. Yeah. Okay. So that's just all I wanted to say. A little essay here, a little riff on being a creature